Rob, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Jerry?
Okay. Hey, listen, I was wondering, how did you guys grade out? From the three starters to everybody else in Saturday's game.
I thought they played well. Obviously, it's our first chance to really go in live action together with a kind of a fresh group of three. But we ended up playing a bunch of guys, which is great. Great experience for those guys. But I thought they played hard. Thought they did what we asked them to do. A good first step.
Rob, we heard from Pat, what Wendell did during training camp to really get that starting job. What, from your perspective, did he do to really stand out and earn that first team slot?
I think it's really consistency, and that's really at all positions, but especially him personally, just the consistent effort, number one, the consistent leadership, the consistent guidance that he provides for the defense, because that's really that Mike spot, the leadership, the quarterback role to get everybody lined up, and he was consistent every day, never wavered. And again, it was a great competition. It still remains a competition because again, those Mike spots every week, game plan tweaked a little bit, changed a little bit, and who's going to get it down the best and be able to take us through it. So he's done a really nice job, and Chase Pine has done a really nice job as well.
Was Wendell consistent on Saturday against Austin Peay in the opener?
Yeah, I thought so. I thought he did a great job. I thought really, like I said, those top six guys, I thought they did a heck of a job and a good first step.
Rob, with this offseason being the way it was, I mean, how important do you think that the entire defensive staff is back, and how does that help you guys, moving forward this season?
I think continuity, obviously, in any business is awesome, especially ours, because you've got so much time wrapped up into this thing, and now you're able to kind of speak without speaking to each other. And it's a nod here, it's a nod there. The kids understand what everybody is looking for. It's not some new random coach. Hey, this is what I expect. The expectations are set. Like the Steelers say, the standard is the standard. So it's the standard set by every coach. They know what to expect. We know what to expect. I know Coach Narduzzi knows what to expect, and I think there's something very comforting about that for us as a staff and our players.
Rob, obviously Phil and Cam are establishing their positions, but are Servassier and Patrician, are they pushing those two as well?
Yeah, I think we've got a nice battle. I mean, obviously Johnny Patrician is new to the room and continues to learn, but he continues. Like I told him, we're not going to treat him like a new guy at this point. I mean, it's season time, and he's been with us, and he's been around this defense. He's a veteran in the college football, and so he continues to get better. Voss continues to get better. And again, Voss is on our third down unit, so he's really stepped up, and I've been really impressed with his growth from year one to year two. So I think we got a heck of a room that just continues to get better and push each other, which is awesome.
From a creating havoc standpoint, you're getting after the quarterback with your guys. I know Kylan did a lot for you in terms of getting, logging sacks and everything last year. How do you think that, obviously Cam and Phil, they did a good job with it last year too. How do you think those guys will kind of fill that void, if you will, and kind of getting after the quarterback?
Yeah, well, I think partly is, our structure and what we do and how hard we work to scheme up people. And I think it's partly our scheme. And then I think those guys and what we've got in our room, the speed and the quickness and just who they are is really going to lend itself to trying to get that done. Now, again, we played one game. So who we are, I don't know if we know yet. Obviously, we've seen these guys at practice. We know what their potential and what they're capable of. But again, this week, Syracuse week 2 is going to be another opportunity for these guys to really show what they can do. Because week 1 was week 1, and I know Cam got one in that first game, and now it's on the other guys to show what they've got. So I think their talent level and their attributes lend itself to getting after it and getting after the quarterback. But again, consistency in the execution is going to be what it's about.
Syracuse.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, Syracuse, they allowed 7 sacks in week 1. I mean, as a defense overall, I mean, you guys kind of perk up when you kind of hear, they have trouble protecting the quarterback.
I don't know if we look. We obviously understand what their stats were and what happened in the last game. Obviously, you want to know where they're coming from, but I think we don't preach it. Whether our guys look at it or not, I know my guys aren't talking about it. I think that our goal is to get after the quarterback, whether we're playing the Dallas Cowboys, the LA Rams, or the Syracuse Orangemen. It doesn't matter to us. Our goal is to scheme them up and get back there and for us to have the most sacks possible we can have in whatever game we're playing. And this week it's Syracuse, and that's the name of the game when we're trying to get after them, stop the run, and sack the quarterback. So I don't know. We don't talk about it much, Jim, but I don't know. Our guys aren't talking about it. I think we just are focused on doing our job in this week too.
Rob, what did Servasier do in training camp in the last few weeks to launch himself into that good position at third down and back up at the money?
Yeah, I just think he's a really intelligent player. He is a post grad, so he's a little year older than most of our true freshmen last year. So he's just has a little bit older mind. He's intelligent. He can understand those things when we're trying to scheme up some people, and that really lends itself. And he's a heck of an athlete. A great speed, a great change of direction, which is what you need, obviously, in running blitz pass and those types of things. So he lends himself to that package, to some of the skill set that he has. And he's worked hard, and he's worked really hard at it.
Coach, you get hall pass for everybody this year. And I know you can't talk about specific recruiting, but overall, how does that change the mindset as a coach where you can utilize so many more of your athletes?
Yeah, you're talking about just the third down package.
No, and in any package, the fact that you can utilize so many more bodies now and get looks at guys where in a typical season you wouldn't be able to do that. You basically have access unlimited to your entire roster.
Yeah, I think it does help you. I think, again, it's going to be what can guys handle. But I think, Larry, you're right. It is a unique year. It's amazing for this not to count or whatever you'd call it. But it is. You're able to take a longer look at guys you normally wouldn't. Maybe you'd be kind of saying, okay, how do we get 4 games out of this guy? But I think that naturally happens, to be honest with you. I think maybe you press it a little bit more this year because you can. But a lot of those things are done through execution and the players trusting each other. But it is unique, and it is kind of fun to be able to kind of say, hey, listen, we're going to have this guy the whole season.
Rob, you have Brandon George playing all 3 phases the other day. What do you look for to see a guy that you think may be able to handle that? And how do you think he did kind of doing all that in one game?
Well, I think, talking to those guys on offense, they thought he did a good job for being a newbie over there. But, he's a guy, and that's kind of just going back to Larry's comment, and just in terms of playing a bunch of guys, and not that he's, he already redshirted and those things, but you only have enough space to play 11 guys, right, on each play. So we obviously have a lot of guys we'd love to play more, and you're trying to find roles for those guys. And Brandon's a guy who's going to be a heck of a linebacker for us. But right now, right, he found himself in a 3-way battle, but he's still a heck of a football player overall. So for us, on offense, defense, special teams, it's all about finding the best 11 for certain plays or certain blitzes or certain schemes that you're running on special teams. And he fits that mold. He's a hard-nosed, tough football player that's willing to do anything. And I think that's really what you're looking for, is for a guy who's willing to literally do anything to get on the field. Those are the guys that you can find a spot for, and he's one of those guys.
Rob, Pat Bostic was saying during the broadcast last Saturday about the depth of the freshman class. As recruiting coordinator, how do you feel about this first-year group? And also, do you feel like you're bringing in a higher level of athlete or a better level of athlete over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think, it's the state of a different guy. 5 years ago, it's a different guy. And I think football's changed a lot, and you're looking for some different skill sets at certain positions. And I think, when you have solid years and you play really well, that's going to help you. I mean, there's no secret. When you win games and you play really good defense, in our case, you're going to have access to different type of dudes. And I think those guys have their attention has been caught by some of what we do in the blitz game, and obviously what we did last year. Obviously the throwing game on offense, that piques some wide receivers and some skill guys, and quarterbacks. And I just think, it's your production that's going to determine those things. And, we were lucky enough to have a good amount of production last year. But, again, you're only as good as your last game. So every week we're trying to prove who we are and show that we're trying to take the next step.
Do we have any final questions before we get to our player representatives?
Yeah, I have.
Rob, you've been on the team for this is your 6th season, I believe. Coaching. You're seeing Phil and Wendell and these guys, and where do you see them as a communication standpoint, as far as like the chemistry you're seeing, the flow of just, hey, we got to switch this, and the challenges that you're able to throw at them as guys that you've seen compared to the rest of the time that you've been at the linebacker coach?
Yeah, it's been, this is a whole different group. When you first get to anywhere, we had guys that were dealing with 3 different systems, 2 before us and our system, and they did a great job. I mean, heck, we've had some good defenses here, and they did a great job. But this is a group that knows nothing but our system. And when you have that, it's a little bit apples and oranges, but to compare it to the old guys. But they only know our system, so it's fast checks. So you'd hope it'd be fast checks, but all of our base stuff, those guys, they're right together. They're mind melting in a lot of these things, and it's what you want, and it's what we do as coaches. I mean, that's how you scheme it up. That's how you put a scheme together to make sure that these guys can continue with that, and you don't have any hiccups because you made it too hard for them. Jim, you've got one.
Thank you,
just kind of a recruiting question a little bit.
Go ahead, last one.
Okay. So, I mean, you didn't have camps. You didn't have official visits in June. Some guys aren't having season. How has the dynamic of recruiting changed in this 2020 climate?
Well, it's changed for everybody. I mean, some people aren't playing games right now. We're playing games, and it's I think the evaluation piece has changed, right? The good news is high schools are playing football, so we're going to get a chance to see that film. But it changed for all of us in the college football landscape that we weren't able to go out and see these guys on the hoof, right? You couldn't see them. You couldn't lay your eyes on them and who they are. Are they really 6'2"? Are they really 6'1"? So I think from an evaluation standpoint, an in-person evaluation, it changes those things. But the good news is everybody's on a level playing field. And so that's where it changes. Other than that, right, which is a big deal. But other than that, the good news is we're going to get to see these guys and how they've grown from junior to senior year.